friends, it's Corey from Hey Let's Make Stuff, and in today's video we are heading back to our laser machine to make a super fun project. Unless you've been living under a rock, you'll know that all the cute girlies right now are carrying around these 40-ounce Stanley Tumblers, and there is a fun way we can personalize them by making acrylic toppers. In today's tutorial, we are going to be making two cute little toppers. First up is this name topper. You can put any name on here. Obviously, I'll show you how to do that. My name is spelled C-O-R-I, which means that it is basically not on anything personalized in stores. So if I want something personalized, I have to make it myself. So this is a really fun option for personalizing your Stanley Tumbler. And next up, I have a cute little retro flower. Retro stuff is really popular right now. These particular toppers are really popular right now, so put them together and you have a product that people will really love. So if you have like your holiday markets coming up and you're looking for something to sell, this might be a really good option because it's not personalized. You can make it without a lot of materials and you can make them in a variety of colors, so they're super cute. Hopefully in today's video you will get some tips and tricks for working with acrylic with your laser. I'm going to be using my Glowforge Pro for this project, mostly because I need it to go kind of fast. I actually don't have a ton of time to record this video today, and I need it to cut a little bit faster than it would cut on my Glowforge Aura or my X-Tool M1. And then I also wanted to use some colors that my smaller diode lasers might struggle to cut. So I've got this light pink and this light yellow, and I haven't tested those on either my Glowforge Aura or my X-Tool M1, but I do know that my Glowforge Pro will cut it. If you want to use a craft laser, you're going to have to use colors that you know that your laser can cut. You may want to do some testing. You can always buy the colors that, come with the machine. You can buy X-Tool's acrylic or you can buy Glowforge's acrylic and you'll know that it will cut. But if you want to cut like a bigger variety of colors, then you're going to need that bigger CO2 laser. Let's talk about what we're going to need for this project. So I have everything laid out here. I have 4 different colors of acrylic. You can see them actually more easily here on the overhead view. I've got this kind of medium pink, which is the center of the flower smiley face and the back of this name tag. I've got a darker pink for the name. I've got a lighter pink for the petals, and then I have a yellow piece for this backing piece. And then in addition to the acrylic, you're gonna want some of this 3M double-sided adhesive. I love this stuff. I love it so much. It's basically replaces glue. Now, if you look at my name here, I have cut it in a font that basically made the entire name at one piece except for this little heart over the I, but it is still very hard to get glue on all the backings of all those little pieces. Like it's just, I don't know, glue seepage, not cute. So using this 3M adhesive instead is a much better option. I use this all the time in my laser crafting, and if you have a laser, then this is definitely something you want to have on hand. If you are making the retro flower, you might want a white paint pen. And that is because, you can see here in the overhead shot, that I have colored in and basically inked the eyes and the mouth of my smiley face. I could leave those just engraved normally, but I thought it was a lot cuter to actually ink those white. And then there are a few things that are helpful, but not necessary. I have a big roll of Gorilla Tape, just very helpful for removing the masking on some of these pieces. And for that, I have a pair of scissors that are meant to cut duct tape, a lot easier than getting my regular scissors all gummed up. Then I find a craft knife, an acrylic ruler, and a self-healing cutting mat really helpful for when working with this 3M adhesive. To begin, we want to start by adding our 3M adhesive to the pieces that we need to stick to other pieces. So for this, we are going to be adding it to the back of the dark pink, we are going to be adding it to the back of the light pink petal piece, and we're going to be adding it to the back of the medium pink smiley face piece so that both of these pieces can stick to that backing piece. If I know I'm going to use this 3M backing on the entire piece of acrylic, a lot of times I will just peel off this entire masking piece and add this 3M adhesive. But for this, I actually don't have a lot of this medium pink left, and I don't know if I want to use all of it with that backing. So I'm just going to do a part of this, and let me show you how to do that. To start, I need to remove just a small amount of this backing. So to do that, I like using my acrylic ruler here and my craft knife. I kind of line this up straight here, and then I'm just going to lightly score the mask. Now, if I accidentally score the actual acrylic, I'm really not too worried about it because I know this is going to be the backing of my piece. So I just basically scored it enough to be able to pull off this masking, which for this one, I'm just going to pull it up with my fingernails, just like this, just like that. I went ahead and actually grabbed a piece of butcher paper because I always forget that when I'm using a piece that's smaller than the actual roll here, then the sticky stuff gets on my desk and that's very annoying. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna unroll this just a bit, and then I'm just gonna carefully line it up here, just like this, and stick it down. Then you're gonna flip so you can see here that that's stuck to the paper here. That's the main reason. Already had to pull up quite a bit of this adhesive off of my actual desk. So I'm gonna turn this around because I'm right-handed, and then I'm going to cut down the side here. I'm gonna cut as straight as I can there, and I'm gonna flip it around here and cut as straight as I can here, because I wanna give myself a nice even edge the next time I go to use this. And then I can cut off these little pieces here, just like this. And when I flip this over, you can see that I just have that 3M adhesive on this small spot on my acrylic. And then, as you can see here, I've already done this on the dark pink and on the light pink piece. Now let's head into the Glowforge app. If you're using some other type of laser, of course, head into your own software, but because I'm using my Glowforge Pro, we will be using the Glowforge app. Because the Glowforge needs to be on while I'm running the Glowforge app, it's going to get a little bit loud in here, and I will try and speak a little bit louder so that you can hear me, but I do apologize for the sound of my Glowforge humming in the background. This is the Glowforge app. It's a fairly simple program if you're not familiar with it, but it does what we need it to do, so let's go ahead and upload our file. I'm going to click the plus sign here, and I'm going to navigate to my file. All right, I have both of my files here in the app. I'm gonna zoom in just a little bit so we can see a little bit better. In the download, I actually have two different sized toppers here. The big one is for the 40-ounce tumbler, the smaller one is for the 30-ounce tumbler. So I have my 40-ounce tumbler here, so I'm just gonna delete this smaller one. And then I have all of the pieces of my flower over here. So I'm gonna kind of double click in here, and I'm gonna just sort of separate them. It's gonna keep my eyes and mouth all together here. You wanna make sure that stays on our little face here. Line those up better here in just a minute if we need to. And then we'll move this one as well. And then you can see that we have all the parts to our project. We have the name topper here, and then we have the backing piece over here, the flower petal piece here, and then the smiley face here. So on this medium pink acrylic, I've got two pieces I wanna cut. I wanna cut the base for my nameplate over here, so I'm just gonna line that up here. And then I know you can't see it over here, but it's over here on this right side. That is where I have added the 3M adhesive. So I'm gonna take my little smiley face, and we'll get everything moved up here. Make sure that smiley face sticks together just like that. Now we need to make sure that we are using the correct settings and that we're not cutting anything we don't want to cut yet. So for this backing piece, I'm gonna go ahead and click over here, and I'm gonna ignore that piece for now because we will cut it out of yellow here in a few minutes. I'm also going to ignore this flower piece. And right now everything else is set to engrave. We do want to engrave that smiley face, but we actually want to cut the name topper backing piece here, and we want to cut the circle around the smiley face. Now, as far as the material goes, this pink acrylic is not anywhere in the Glowforge app. So I did some testing, and the medium red acrylic setting worked just fine for me to cut this particular acrylic. You may need to do your own test to figure out what works. I've said this in other videos, but the best way to test is to cut a capital letter R in a serif font. This will allow your laser to show you whether or not you're gonna have issues cutting your project. That letter R is just a really, really great test cut. So if you don't know if this material is gonna work or what settings you need, go ahead and do some test cuts with that capital letter R and figure out your settings before you go to cut your project. And that's it. We are ready to hit print. So I'm gonna hit print over here, and it's going to prepare my project. The Glowforge app says this is going to take 1 minute and 45 seconds, so I'll go ahead and hit that button on my Glowforge. All right, I have my two pieces. Now, before we cut these other acrylic, I want to do the paint pen portion of this first. And that's because it just takes a little bit while for the paint pen to dry. So I like using paint pens to ink acrylic. It just works so well. But you want to make sure that you have this masking on, and you don't want to peel that off before you do the paint pen. So while the mask is still on, you can go ahead and use that paint pen to basically color in your engraving here. Just like this. Because of that mask, you don't have to be neat and tidy, and you may want to do 2 coats, just depending on the quality of your paint pen. So I have that inked in there. We can head back into the Glowforge app and finish cutting all of our pieces. Next up is this backing piece for our flower, so I'm gonna go ahead and delete the nameplate, and I'm gonna delete the smiley face, just like that. Then I'm going to drag my backing piece up here. The backing piece is not the one that looks like all the petals here. It has that extra, base piece attached to it. And I'm gonna stick it right in there. For this material, I found that the medium white acrylic cut pretty well. Choose that. And I'm gonna set it to cut. And now I can make it. One small note when you are removing these flower pieces from your acrylic, in the overhead view here, you can see these little acrylic, places where the petals are. Those are really sharp, so just be really careful when you're pulling out your flower pieces. I have quite a few little cuts all over my hands because I wasn't paying attention the other day, and in one go I sliced myself 3 different times. So just be really careful when you are removing your acrylic for these flower pieces. And now we have our final piece. I will note that the Glowforge app is being a little bit glitchy. I deleted these other pieces over here, but they are still saying that some sort of artwork still exists. So I just made sure to set them to ignore so that whatever's happening over here, it's only gonna cut this flower piece. So I set this flower piece up in a row here. There might have been a better way to lay these out to sort of save myself some material, but I couldn't figure out what that was. So this is what we're going with. I have it set again to that medium white acrylic. I found that worked okay for this light pink acrylic, and I'm ready to cut that one too. Pink piece is cut out. All that's left is for us to do the name. Back here in the Glowforge app, you can easily add a name by inserting text here, and you can type your name if you'd like. Now, one of the most annoying things is this wants to capitalize my name no matter what I do here, unless I add a second C and then delete the first C. And that gets me the lowercase Corey. It took me forever to figure that out. So if you want a lowercase name, that's how you do it. And then you can choose your typeface. But here's the thing, I don't really like any of these fonts for my name. I tried a few different ones here. I don't know. I feel like my name, when written out in cursive, is just really boring because it's only 4 letters and they're not like really cool letters. Like all of you people with, H's and M's, you get cool letters. I've got like no cool letters in my name. So no matter what I did, I just did not find the font here that I particularly liked. So you can use this Glowforge font tool here and figure out a font that you like and go ahead and use it. But I didn't want to do that. One of the things with Glowforge's fonts is that you can't choose fonts from your own hard drive, which I think is really annoying, especially since this is a premium feature of the Glowforge program and it's already really expensive to begin with. So the fact you can't use your own fonts, I don't know, I find it really annoying. So instead, if you don't want to do this, you can create your name in another program. So I would suggest Illustrator, which is paid, or Inkscape, which is free. I am an Illustrator girl. I love Illustrator. I'm in there all the time, so I don't mind paying the fee for that. Inkscape is very similar if you want to use that. But here's how you do it in Illustrator, just so that you can see the process, and then you can translate this process into Inkscape if you'd like. It's very similar. This is Adobe Illustrator. Inkscape is similar but different, but it does have all of the same sort of functions as Adobe Illustrator. I'm not super familiar with Inkscape, so I apologize for not being able to give you exact directions on how to do this. But if you are familiar with Cricut or Silhouette, basically we're going to type our letters and then we need to weld them together so that they cut as a single piece. This is called Unite in Illustrator. I think it's called Combine in Inkscape, but basically you're looking for welding if you're familiar with that term. So I'm going to go ahead and use the text tool to type my name. I'm using this silly named font. It's called Thinkle Bloom Regular. I'll try and link it below. I like it because I have that little heart. It's just a cute way to write my name. So I can't export this as an SVG as is because it is still technically a font. I need to turn it into a shape. So I'm going to go to Type, Create Outlines. And now if I zoom in, you can see here that I have all my letters, but they are overlapping. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit here, and then I'm going to go to Window, Pathfinder. That will open my Pathfinder over here on the left. And I'm going to click this Unite tool, and that creates one single piece. Now for me, because that dot on the eye is actually a separate piece, I'm going to take it one step further and I'm going to go to Object, Compound Path, Make. That means now that my entire name here is one single piece. I have a few tutorials for how to use Adobe Illustrator over on my blog, and if you're interested in more tutorials for using Adobe Illustrator, let me know in the comments because I would be happy to make more videos on that for you. Now I'm going to save this as an SVG. I'm going to save it as my name, and I'm going to choose SVG, save, and yes, I'm going to replace the one I made earlier when I was doing all the tests, and click OK. And then back here in the Glowforge app, I'm going to upload that file I just made with my name. And then over here on the side, I'm going to place my file here. Now, you can definitely bring in that name tag file to know how big you want to make this. I'm actually just going to go off the size I made it before, but you can upload that name tag file and place your name on it to make sure that it fits, and then either ignore or delete that name tag file and cut your project. All right, I'm cutting this one on that sort of darker pink, and again, I'm gonna use that medium red acrylic because I found that it works pretty well. Over here on the edge of my acrylic is where I have that strip of 3M adhesive. That's why I'm kind of over here on this side and not on the other side where I've made these other projects. I'm gonna go ahead and click print and make my project. All there is left to do is assemble our projects, and we first have to remove the mask. Now, there are several ways to remove the mask. You can use Gorilla Tape, that works really well. I also have a plastic razor blade that I use. Sometimes I just use my fingernails, sometimes I use a weeding hook, so there are several ways to do this. So let's start with the name. So I'm just gonna put this on the corner here, and that should help pull up that masking just like that, and that will allow me to easily unmask my project. Pull that off there. Do the other side as well. So on this side, it's actually wanting to just pull up that first layer, which is very annoying. I may have to pull out my weeding hook for this. So let's try with the weeding hook. Just try very hard not to scratch your acrylic. Just want to get it just started so that then you can get the tape stuck to your hand, and then you can pull up the entire masking here. For the name, before we pull off this masking, let's go ahead and attach it to our topper here. So the back side is the side with that 3M adhesive, and I made sure not to lose my little heart here, right? So the 3M adhesive, you just peel it up as well. I don't use the Gorilla Tape for that, I just use my fingernail. And then I pull it up just like this. And now the back has that sticky back here, which is awesome. So let's go ahead and place it on the cup. You can decide which way you want it to go. So let's see, I did this one this way, and I think that worked well for how I hold the cup. So I just realized I chose a completely different font than I had last time. Look at that. They're different. They're very similar, but they are different. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that here, just like that. Just like that. And now that's on there. You can do the same with this itty bitty heart. Just pull off that little tiny backing piece over here and add the heart. I also realized on this one, I don't even have the heart in the right place. I don't know what my brain was thinking. There we go, just like that. I wonder if I could peel this up. Yep, just like that. Oh my God, I took photos and everything. Look at that. I'm gonna have to go back in there and clean up a little bit of that goo, but it's on there now. All right, so now we have the name, and then we just need to remove that masking. So again, I'm gonna use this little bit of Gorilla Tape here. Let's see if this will pull it up. I was using this all day yesterday and it was working fine. So of course, now that I need to make a video, it's not working at all. I'm just going back to my weeding hook, just gonna peel that up just like that. And again, you don't wanna scratch your acrylic, so be kind of gentle. Just like this. I can't believe I had two different fonts there. It just goes to show you how many fonts I have on my computer. It is ridiculous. All right, so I've got my two different versions here. That cracks me up. One, that I used different fonts, and two, that I had that dot in the wrong place. I'm gonna have to go back and take some new photos. If you want exact placement for your names, there is actually a way to create a score line on the backing piece so you know exactly where to put your name. I'm sort of hit or miss on this. I like it because it does help you show you where to put the name, but if you don't get it exact, you can still see that score line, and I kind of find that annoying. So I feel like I'm a little bit better at eyeballing it. So I think I'd prefer to eyeball it, but all you have to do is duplicate the name and change the outline to a score and put it on top of this backing piece before you cut it. I'm gonna be doing a beginner video on cutting, scoring, and engraving coming up here in a few weeks. I already have it all planned out, and so if you are confused about what scoring is versus cutting versus engraving, I will go into that more in that video. Then let's pop over to the overhead camera here, and you can see that that just sits right in there, and you have your cute personalized topper. Now let's assemble our flower. So since I'm really struggling with that Gorilla Tape today, which is very funny because I literally just used it yesterday and it was working just fine. We can remove the masking from each of our flower pieces here. And then before we remove the mask on this pink piece, let's go ahead and just do the back here. So I actually lost a piece of this 3M adhesive when I was pulling it out of my Glowforge. Just pull it up just like that. And then very carefully, because this stuff is very sticky, place this on to your base piece. You want to get it as lined up as possible, like that. If you get that on there and it's crooked, there is no coming back from it. So get that on there properly. And then I'm just going to use my little weeding hook here just to pull up a little bit of that masking so I can pull up the masking off the whole piece here. Now all we have to do is add this last little piece. So again, don't remove that masking from the front yet, but remove the 3M from the back, just like that. And again, try and get this guy in there straight if you can, because there's really not much moving him around once he's in there. Just like that, press him down. And then you can use your hook or whatever other way you want to remove the masking to bring that up, and you'll see that the masking protected the rest of the little smiley face from getting paint on it. And then again, let's grab our Stanley Tumbler, and from the overhead view here, you can slide that in and it fits perfectly. Now I've made a few of these and I can't decide which way the smiley face should face, so you can make your own choices here. If I close this, I realize my smiley face is actually upside down from what I'm seeing, but it's right side up for what everybody else would see. It really is up to you, whichever way you want to put this smiley face, but just think about it before you stick it on there. And there you have it. We have two cute Stanley cup toppers. These are so popular right now, so I think it's a really fun time to make one of these. You can use all of the tips and tricks I featured in this video if you want to make Stanley cup toppers made by somebody else. So there are a lot of files for these over on Etsy if you want to grab a different design or do something different. You can use all the processes that I used here to make those as well. Thank you so much for joining me today to make these Stanley cup toppers. I hope you found this video interesting or inspiring. If so, I would love for you to give it a like. If you want more laser content, Cricut, sublimation, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you next week.